All right. Well, thanks, guys, so much for joining us. This is Extreme Health Radio, and this is going to be a really great show. We're going to be talking about your dog's health and talking about how to take care of your dog naturally with Dana Scott from Dogs Naturally magazine. This is going to be a cool show. As you guys know, if you follow our Instagram, you follow what we do, you know that dogs are a huge part of our life. So this is just really great to be able to take care of your dog in a natural way without giving them antibiotics, medications, vaccines, and all these damaging things that most veterinarians want to give our pups. So is it possible that we can increase our dog's lifespan, increase their energy? I think it is. And I'm really happy to be here today with you guys. This is episode 639. So if you guys want to grab the show notes to any of the sponsors, any of the links that we talk about, the Dogs Naturally magazine, you can find all of that stuff on extremehealthradio.com/639. And we do broadcast live 3 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. And let me bring up our little show schedule for you guys so you can see what kind of guests we have come up. Lots of cool stuff happening here on Extreme Health Radio. So it's an honor to be here and to be sharing all this stuff with you. So let's see. Today's Wednesday, so we're going to be talking with Dana Scott. And then on Friday, we'll be talking with our biological holistic dentist, Dr. Stuart Nunley in Marble Falls. He's an incredible guy. And then we're going to be talking with Matt Maruka on Monday, and we'll be talking with him about light and blue light and how it affects even our dogs. And it affects our biology, our cancer, skin cancers, all kinds of things happening with blue light. That's why I'm wearing these blue blocking glasses right now. And then we're going to talk with, Scott Nelson on Wednesday about photobiomodulation, which is basically light therapy. And then on Friday, Dr. Randall Tent, who was a guest that many of you guys were sort of asking us to have on, Dr. Randall Tent. So that'll be a good show with him. So if you haven't subscribed to our show, our YouTube channel, if you're listening on iTunes, make sure to subscribe. If you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and hit that little bell button. I think there's a little bell somewhere around, and you can get notified when we go live on our show. So today we have Dana Scott, and I found her work, oddly enough, probably about 3 or 4 months ago when we're having some real issues with fleas with our dogs. And we went to a conventional regular vet because it got really bad. It got really, really challenging for us. And then so he wanted to give our dog Charlie some, I forget what the name of the medication was, but I typed it into Google, and then I found one of Dana's articles about this medication and what it actually does. And so that's how I found Dana's work on Dogs Naturally magazine. And let me just turn her up here and introduce her. Dana, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm so great. And I'm so glad to have you on. And you are the CEO and the founder of Dogs Naturally magazine, and that's a magazine. How long has that magazine been going for?
We're in our 8th year now, so yeah.
Wow. And I'm assuming I've seen some of your past videos and things that you've done. You have your own set of animals. How many dogs do you have?
I actually have 5 Labradors right now. I have a horse, and I have another Labrador on his way from Poland at the moment.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. So you must love labs then.
I breed and show them. They're definitely the breed for me.
Oh, wow. Wow. And so have you grown up all your life with dogs and just loved animals?
Oh yeah, definitely. We always had dogs and cats around the house, and I'm a girl, so girls dig horses, so I
Yeah.
always wanted one of those in my life as well. So,
Yeah. But no horses now, just dogs?
yeah, I have a dressage horse, and I'm looking for a second one because I don't have enough things to do in the day. But
Right.
but no, I very much enjoy being around animals. Definitely.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. I mean, animals bring something unique to the table, don't they? I mean, they're so great to have around, during stressful times or times maybe when you're going through some things, and just having a dog around is so amazing, isn't it?
It really is. They don't judge you, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think one of my favorite things is just walking with the dogs as a pack. And until you've really walked with a bunch of dogs at once before, it's a really cool thing to be part of a pack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So in your neck of the woods, do you have lots of space and lots of land for your dogs?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm on 5 acres, and we've got 2 ponds and a stream on the property, and the property's fenced for them. And then we actually back onto forest area, and on the other side of that is an organic farm field. So it's a great place to walk the dogs and not have to worry about spray. And it's a great place to rummage in the fall after they're finished and pick up all the old carrots and potatoes and things that they left behind.
So fun. So with 5 acres, how often do you walk your dogs?
Well, once a day. I would like it to be more, but dogs naturally is an 80 to 100 hour endeavor for me right now. And so yeah, I give them the time that I can.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, walking 5 dogs. We just got a split leash for our 2 dogs, and we live in a neighborhood, so we can't really let them roam off. But man, 5 dogs walking. I guess if you don't have them on a leash, that's kind of fun. That's lets them roam around a bit, right?
Super fun.
Yeah.
Super fun. Yeah, the only challenge I have is if they're off in the brush, then I just make a point of just really, really shouting their name real loud in case there's coyotes back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, my old lady had some tussles with coyotes and come out on top, so I'm always
Really?
aware of that for sure.
Wow. So what happened? Coyotes attacked your dogs, and
Oh my gosh. Lucky for her, like my old Audrey, she's 10 now, and she's just, she's built like this, and she just goes. And one day I was walking her, and I could see a coyote on the other side of the fence on the other field. And she just took off, and they're in the tree line. I can hear her barking. I can hear the coyote barking back at her. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? But then I've got all these other dogs with me. So I thought, well, I can't bring all the dogs with me. So I'm running back to the house, bringing the dogs back. And then I hear, yay, like that. And I'm like, oh my God, like that's it. She's done. Like she's done. But now she came out completely unscathed 10 minutes later. So I don't know what happened, but
wow.
it's a concern. But I think for the most part, I haven't had any problems.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So what made you start Dogs Naturally magazine years ago when you first, got involved and started the magazine? And I mean, you're doing so many things now. Like you have a YouTube channel, you have a radio show I saw, and the actual magazine, plus all your digital content, and then some products that we'll talk about, which is a huge endeavor doing all this. What made you start it, 6-7 years ago?
Well, when I started breeding my dogs, I'm not, you're probably the same. I'm a very type A personality. So I wanted the best dog, and I wanted the best dog to have the best food. And it's just the way I am. So as I started researching food, I started by buying, the best bag of kibble I could get. And of course, as I learned more, I started them on a raw diet. And then from there, I just really, really wanted to, treat them with homeopathy, treat them much more naturally, and avoid the vaccines and the drugs. Back when I did that, like 20, 25 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of support for me. And I think there was a whole lot of people, even when we started Dogs Naturally up, there was a lot of people kind of doing their thing in separate corners. And I really imagined to myself, what would happen if everybody was in one place doing this? And if we could bring all the best holistic vets together and give them an audience, and take everybody who's interested in this and put them in connection with the vets and with the people who are in the industry that are ethical and doing the right things, we thought, wouldn't that be great to form this giant community? And that really was the impetus behind it. I really believe that vets are over servicing our dogs today to their detriment. And I think Dogs Naturally is a wake-up call for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and something you were saying in a recent show, or at least a recent, broadcast on YouTube, it was really cool. I really resonated with it, which was, there's a lot of vets and a lot of doctors too, medical doctors, but a lot of vets that are just sort of doing this sort of hybrid approach. Like they call themselves holistic, but they're sort of not really holistic, and they're just call themselves that. And so what you're saying was, the people that you're working with, the vets, these are all people that are 100% full in, 100% holistic, right?
Yeah, we call them holistic vets.
Holistic.
Holistic. Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of people think, they want to move to natural healthcare, and so they'll seek out a holistic vet. But you're right, 9 times out of 10, the first thing you're asked is, oh, when has the dog been vaccinated last? Because it probably needs vaccines, and it needs dewormers and all these other things. So holistic to me, it's not. One of the words that really, really irritates me is alternative medicine, or it's like, no, it's not alternative. It works very well on its own. Thank you very much. So I think a lot of people have the idea that you can feed your dog Old Roy and vaccinate it every single year. And then when it gets, raging hot spots, that you can just treat it with some herbs. And it's not really the way that works. I think that's how holistic vets work, but the vets that we work with, they're hardcore. It's building health from the inside out, from the ground up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're talking about more of a foundational aspect of how people care for their dogs, and what kinds of food they feed and what kind of lifestyle environment they're in, so that you can avoid going to see a vet. You can avoid problems that might arise as a result of a sedentary lifestyle and poor food, poor diet, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The belief that vaccines, injecting a dog with foreign animal protein and formaldehyde and aluminum and mercury, and to do that to a dog and say, there, I've just protected him, is ludicrous. But it's something that we accept today, and it happens on the human side as well. And to feed a dog nothing but synthetic vitamins and minerals from China in a bag filled with mycotoxins, and say, this is solid nutrition for a dog. Again, I think it's naive for us to believe that, and certainly for vets to believe that.
Mm-hmm. We had a guest on recently, a really amazing medical doctor from San Francisco, California, and he wrote a book called, gosh, something about vaccines, the changing nature of childhood illnesses, or something like that. And it was really interesting because he was talking about the immune system of humans and mammals too. But he was saying that, like, he wasn't taking the conventional vaccines are bad and here's all the bad ingredients. But what he was saying was, okay, assuming that to be true, he was saying, what happens to the immune system of any mammal when you deprive it from going through certain issues? Like in humans, it's chickenpox, mumps, rubella. And he was showing this incredible link between lifespan and chronic degenerative diseases like cancer, Alzheimer's, and not having gone through those childhood illnesses because someone got a vaccine. And I'm wondering if the same is true with animals. Like, I think we had a guest on one time who was saying, Dr. Will Falconer, I think he was saying that dogs should live like 20, 25 years or something like that. Like, it's possible for animals to live much longer than they're living if they didn't get all these vaccines and all these, poor diet and things. What do you think about that?
Well, it's hard to establish cause and effect, but the reality for dogs today is that 1 in 2 is going to get cancer, and that number is increasing every single day. So I think we can all agree that what we're doing today is probably not working as a lifestyle choice for our dogs. Whether it's vaccine, it's just there's so many horrible things that we do to our dogs. I think vaccines are just one part, but for me, you would not get a needle near any of my dogs because, and I'm sure you know that, it fundamentally turns the immune system inside out. And it's a fake kind of immunity. It's a humoral immunity where the dog kind of relies on its antibodies for protection instead of that cellular deep immunity that's supposed to happen. And your dog is just walking around and his antibodies are going around like a beehive. And every time you vaccinate that dog again, you're just kicking the beehive. And, you're increasing the risk for so many autoimmune and inflammatory disorders like cancer, of course, joint disease, arthritis. The list just goes on and on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the more you vaccinate too, right, the more health problems, like, sort of like issues that dogs would maybe normally never have. Like you said, autoimmune diseases. Like, let's say they contract cancer when they're 12 years old and you vaccinate them when they're 1 year old. Well, from 1 to 12, you're going to have all kinds of like weird stuff that comes up that dogs should normally never have, right?
The thing is, and I don't know if a lot of pet owners know this, it only takes one vaccine to protect a pet for life. So the core vaccines, the big ones, distemper and parvovirus, those are modified live vaccines. And if you vaccinate a puppy at or after 16 weeks of age, it's been scientifically shown time and time again with every major vaccine on thousands of dogs that dog will be protected for life. And veterinarians have known this for 40 years, and they're just not doing anything about it. And they're sending us postcards, and 60% of them are still vaccinating our dogs annually. The other half, they're vaccinating our dogs every 3 years, and they're going, "Ooh, look at me! I'm not over vaccinating," and they are, because they just flat out know that vaccine given to any dog at or after 16 weeks of age will protect for life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the trickiest one, isn't it, is the rabies vaccine. That's the most tricky, isn't it, with regards to the laws and the rules and things like that?
Yes. I mean, it's easy for us to say that we're going to dodge the laws here. And lots of people I know don't vaccinate for rabies, and they do fine. I think, because rabies isn't really that big a problem here. I think if I owned a dog and I lived in India, I might look at the rabies vaccine a little differently. But unfortunately, the rabies vaccine, the killed vaccines are the most harmful vaccines. So any zoonotic disease, which means that it's a disease that we can catch from our companion animals. So the rabies vaccine, the lepto vaccine, the Lyme vaccine, those are all killed vaccines, and they need so many chemicals in them to stabilize them. Unfortunately, those are the biggest threat to your dog's immune system. That's the problem with rabies. Is one of the most dangerous vaccines that you can give your dog, and it's required by law in in all states, and up here in Canada in some of our provinces, but not all. It's a problem.
Yeah, it's challenging too, because like they're tying it to now being able to go to a vet, or if you want to even go get your dog groomed or something crazy, it's like they're asking for vaccine records, and my God, it's just like what's up with that? It's just you can't do anything without having your dog at least have the rabies vaccine.
Well, that's because pharmaceutical companies have a whole lot of money, and they can influence media. They can certainly influence vets. So, in human medicine, it would be a conflict of interest to have a vaccine manufacturer teach you about immunology, but that's what happens in veterinary schools. They learn about nutrition from Hills and Mars and kibble manufacturers. It's a blatant conflict of interest. And ultimately, vets just learn to do whatever the pharmaceutical companies or the kibble manufacturers tell them what to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so traveling with animals, I think they're making you, like, if you go to a different country, I think there's laws about that too, right?
Depends on the country. I mean, it really does depend on the country. Most dogs are going to require a health check, whether they require rabies or not. I don't know. It really depends on the country. Here in Canada and the U.S., rabies is most definitely required. And as a matter of fact, some puppy mill puppies crossed the border a little while ago. So now the USDA will not allow any unvaccinated puppies in. So they have to be 4 months old and vaccinated for rabies before they can cross into the U.S.
Oh my goodness. So do you think vaccines are the number one threat to animal health, or to dogs' health these days? Is that the number one place, do you think, that we would start fixing if we could?
Yeah, I would say vaccines, with glyphosate being a close second.
Oh, really?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, sorry. We had Stephanie Seneff. I'm sure you're familiar with her work, and we had her on the show. And this glyphosate stuff, is just everywhere. She was surmising on the show. She said afterwards she's going to start doing some research that it's actually in the air, because all fuel is about 10% from ethanol, which is derived from corn, which is sprayed with Monsanto's glyphosate. And so we're breathing this stuff, she thinks, but it's everywhere, isn't it? It's permeating all of our food.
Yeah, and the funny thing about Roundup is that it's kind of developed to sit right on top of the soil. So as soon as it rains, it just runs right off into our waterways. And HRI Labs, I don't know if you're familiar with them. They do a glyphosate testing, and they're actually doing a really, really good job of compiling the results. And they found that dogs have thousands of percent more glyphosate in their systems than farmers in Iowa. It's just a massive problem for pets.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm just actually bringing up. Let me bring up. You said HRI Labs. Is that right?
HRI Labs. Yeah. So if anybody wants to test for glyphosate at home, it's a little people and pet urine test that you can do.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up for those that are watching on our YouTube show. It's hrilabs.com, and I'll put a link in the show page, extremehealthradio.com/639 to this. So you can actually test for glyphosate in yourself and then in your animals as well?
Yes. Yes, and I would encourage everybody to do this because glyphosate is just it's a massive problem because I think most people know that our health and our immune system relies on the health of our gut. There's a microbiome in our gut, and it's made up of all sorts of little tiny little microorganisms, most of them bacteria, and these bacteria are so important that they even can talk directly to your brain. These bacteria, they manufacture vitamins, short chain fatty acids, and they make up most of your immune system. So the assumption with glyphosate, with Roundup, was that it was safe for people because the way that it disables weeds is that it kills, it disables something called the Shikimati pathway. And it's just a metabolic pathway. And when this pathway is disabled, it essentially kills the plant, and it also chelates or removes a lot of important minerals from the plant. So basically it gives the plant AIDS. So they think, okay, humans and dogs don't have a Shikimati pathway, so it's safe. But the problem is our intestinal bacteria do. So glyphosate just devastates the microbiome and, of course, the immune system by proxy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was also reading recently, too, that it also somehow disrupts the sulfur cycle in the body, which prevents oxygen from getting into the cells, which sets a person up for long-term disease, because we know oxygenation of the body, of the cells, prevents from lots of different types of cancers and different things like that. And so dysregulating the sulfur cycle is also a massive issue because sulfur is so prevalent and so necessary, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it causes mineral deficiency, and glyphosate is actually also patented as an antibiotic. People probably don't know that.
Wow, really? It's actually patented that way?
Yeah.
My goodness, gee, many Christmas. So it's just, and so if we're breathing it and we're getting it in food and we're getting it in water, it's like, So I guess you could test your dog with that test that you're talking about. You can test yourself, and then it looks like you can test food and water as well.
You can. And the good thing about doing with HRI is that they're compiling all of the data, and it's just, they're nonprofit, they're compiling all of the data, and it's just so critical that we have this information.
Wow. So you think glyphosate and vaccines, I mean, talk about two things that would disrupt any mammal's health. So those are your top two you think that are causing issues today?
Oh yeah, because they absolutely disable the immune system, and if you don't have a properly functional immune system, you just can't have good health.
Yeah, my goodness. So glyphosate is probably in a lot of food that they're eating as well. So when they're walking around sniffing the ground, and what Stephanie Seneff was talking about, it being in the air, if it's coming off of rainwater and sitting on top of the soil, and dogs are walking around sniffing grass from a neighbor, most likely that's affecting them as well, right?
No question. And for those like people like me who live in the country, it sits on the farm fields. And I'll tell you a quick story. When I moved into a house that had a sod farm around it, and I was so careful to stay off the farm for at least 2 to 3 weeks and a good couple of rains after they fertilized it or sprayed it. And then 2 years afterward, they actually stripped all the sod and sold it. And I thought, oh my God, that's great. Now I can take the dogs on the field and I don't have to worry about them spraying chemicals, which I did. What I did not know was that after they stripped the sod, they spray the entire farm with Roundup. To kill off the remaining sod, and then they plow it under and start all over again. I did not know this. There were apple trees on the farm. My dogs ate the apples. They sprayed in November. Within a month, Simon, my 10-year-old male, started showing signs of a brain tumor, and he was dead 2 months later in January. And before he died, Aaron, my 6-year-old male, started showing signs of brain tumor as well, and he was dead in April.
My goodness, just from eating the apples that were on that land.
Sprayed with Roundup.
My goodness, and they had
It
died
killed two of my dogs in months.
In months. Wow, that is incredible. Ah, man, what do we do about this? That's the question, right?
We support organic and local whenever we can. But here's the rub: is that Roundup isn't just used for weed control. Roundup can be used for desiccation. So. And a lot of crops are desiccated. So potatoes, wheat, millet, legumes. What happens is they'll spray Roundup on those crops to help dry them super quick before harvesting, and it increases the yield. I'm pretty sure people who know a lot more about this than I do, but I'm pretty sure you can spray organic crops with Roundup and still call them organic. So I'd really worry about wheat products. I just think for those reasons, you have to know your producer. If you have the ability to shop local and organic and know your farmer and know how those crops or animals are being raised, it's the right way to do things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll share a little anecdotal story as well. This is kind of how and why I got involved in this whole natural health, industry years ago in 2003. My mom was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 1995, and she would routinely spray Roundup on our flowers in the backyard. And we had a small dog at the time. I just loved him to death. Snuggles was his name, and he was such a great dog. But in 1995, she was spraying a lot with that, or prior to that. And then in 1995, she had developed a cancer, a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which oddly enough happens to be the exact same cancer that gentleman that won the jury from Monsanto, $300 or $400 million, was diagnosed with as well. So he had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and now there's studies showing the complete correlation between Monsanto's Roundup and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and they're appealing the case. But my mom was diagnosed with that, and my dog Snuggles had tumors all over him, and he passed away from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And my mom was using Roundup and all over the backyard for years. It's crazy. Yeah, it just happens, right? And many people see these products being used, and it's just like, if we walk our dogs around the neighborhood, we still see people with those backpacks on full of that liquid, and they're spraying. Is that Roundup that they're spraying, do you think?
Chances are it is. Yeah.
Wow. And so they're spraying like the cracks, right, for weeds and things like that. I mean, I guess where you are, it's a lot better, right? Because you're out in the country, and that's a little bit better.
No, not at all.
No,
because in the city they have to post when they spray it. In the country, they don't.
Oh, really? So you have no idea.
No idea.
Yeah. So your dog, but I guess, does it really matter if it's really that strong? Does it matter? Do you think? Like, does it matter if your dog sniffs Roundup from, a ground that was sprayed 2 days ago versus a week ago? If it's still that strong, wouldn't it affect your dog's biology anyway? Do you think?
No, because it dries, right?
Okay.
It dries. I think when it's wet, I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, I know. I often think about that too, because we'll see people spraying that in our neighborhood, and then we'll, avoid that area, and then we wonder, like 3 or 4 days later, when our dogs sniff where they were spraying, are they still getting something? I would imagine so. I'm freaked out by all that stuff. You know?
Oh yeah, it's just I think it's just so persistent. Like it doesn't break down. If it broke down, then it really wouldn't do anything, would it? It just yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy
It's
that we allow this to happen.
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. We're with Dana Scott right now, and if you guys want to check out her website, I'm going to bring her site up. A really awesome magazine that I think you guys should really look at. It's awesome, cool stuff. Let me bring up her website here, Dogs Naturally magazine. If you're listening on the podcast, you can't obviously see this, but they have some really great articles and publication. They talk here about CBD oils for seizures in dogs, and these are different articles that they have right now. Understanding Cushing's disease in dogs, veterinary education, pet food scandals, turkey bone broth. I was going to ask her about bone broth and stuff, and medicinal mushrooms. We'll talk about that after the break too, but some really, really cool things. So you can search by health condition, and they have a publication that you can get. So I recommend Dogs Naturally magazine. Make sure to check it out and check that out and learn all about how to take care of your dog naturally. This is episode 639 with Dana Scott. So if you want the show notes and anything like that, any of the links that we talk about, make sure to check out extremehealthradio.com/639. And speaking of, different nutrition that you can actually give to your dog, we give our dogs colostrum from Surthrival, and it's available in our store. And I wanted to share this with you because there's an actual sale going on right now, and let me see if I can bring this up. If you use the code WINTER10, you can get 10% off, and that runs from December 3rd, 2018 to December 10th, 2018. WINTER10 is the code, but make sure to go through our link here in our store. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you can click in the description and you could see the link to Surthrival. But they have colostrum. They have really great dual extraction, 100% organic mushrooms like reishi and chaga. They do a dual extraction, which means they pull out a lot of the medicinal compounds that come out in the water, but then they also do a tincture with alcohol and pull out those terpenes and different immune modulating substances from the chaga and from the reishi mushrooms. And so I'm a big fan of what they're doing. Daniel Vitalis has been on the show a number of times. I really like him. Chaga is really incredible for building your immune system, and it's just a longevity mushroom. It's the king of all mushrooms is what they call it, and it does so many different things for the body. Prevents disease, and pine pollen is amazing for building testosterone and building and regulating your hormone levels. Colostrum is what we like to give to our dogs. I love their colostrum as well. It's 100% raw, 100% organic. It's the first food of all mammals, and what's great about colostrum is that it helps to seal your digestive tract. It's like bone broth. It's really great for your digestion and your intestinal health, but it's also a great immune system food as well. And so I take it a lot, and I love their colostrum. I need to get some more of it here pretty soon. We put it in our smoothies, we put it in our shakes, we put it in our coffee. We'll blend it up like a bulletproof kind of style coffee. It's really creamy and rich. It tastes amazing. And so I really recommend Surthrival. Make sure to check them out. And if you have a dog, you can give some of their colostrum to your pup, and we'll talk to Dana about maybe that and see what she thinks about giving colostrum. I know she's got some articles on it on her website. And then another product that we give to our dogs is this Barf World raw dog food. And whatever you do, just don't give your dog kibble, please, please, please. You don't have to buy the barf. We love the barf. We give it to our dogs. It's raw. It's got the entrails. It's got the muscle meat. It's got the bones. So it's a really great acid alkaline balance for your dogs, because it's not really natural for humans or dogs really to eat just the muscle meat. Like that's not really natural. It's like eating an apple. Whenever I eat an apple, I eat the seeds as well, because it's a whole food. So it's really important to make sure that whatever diet you're feeding your dog, make sure they're getting the entrails, the organ meats, make sure they're getting the muscle meats, make sure they're getting the bone, so that all of that creates a perfect acid alkaline balance for your dog, and much, much more nutritious. But please, whatever you do, please don't give your dog kibble. I just implore you. I know Dana Scott, I think she has some raw dog food there. You can try that. But just whatever you do, upgrade your dog's food, please, 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 please. So we like the Barf World raw dog food. You can give that a try. Our dogs just thrive on this stuff. Their skin, coat, nails, hair all look amazing. They have boundless amounts of energy, and it's amazing stuff. It's amazing stuff. So I highly encourage you guys to upgrade your dog food no matter what you buy, if it's the barf or if it's something else. But just make sure to upgrade your dog's food and feed them like you would feed yourself. So hope you guys are enjoying the show so far. Let me jump in over to the chat room and see if you guys have any questions. If you have any questions, make sure to ask them in all caps. That way I can see some of your questions. And if I see some questions come in, I will ask Dana. But let me turn her mic back on and bring her back into the show. And so Dana, I know that on your website you have an article about colostrum. What do you think about using colostrum and giving that to pups?
Yeah, it's one of it's the well no it's the second most popular product in our store for sure. It just flies off the shelves, and like you said, it's really great for digestive health, and it's an immune modulator. And I think by and large the people who have dogs with environmental allergies especially have just a lot of success with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so inexpensive too. It's just one of those supplements. It's like, there's a lot of really expensive supplements, but the great thing about colostrum is something really simple and really not super expensive that you can try for your dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's great for humans too. Do you take it as well?
Colostrum? Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a great supplement, and it's like, mammals' first food, right? Is colostrum from the mother.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and and I think that you're a big advocate of clean food for your animals, and let's talk a little bit about like what's going on with kibble and this food, this canned food that dogs are getting, and it's such an issue, right? With all of the chemicals coming off from the inside of the can, the rendering, and not even counting what's actually the substance of what's in those cans or kibble. So, what have you been able to research and find about the dangers of just conventional kibble, dry dog food, and stuff like that?
Well, the number one safety concern in the pet food industry today is mycotoxins, and mycotoxins, aflatoxins. They're a mold that can form on grains. And what happened was there was a drought back in 2012, and they had all of this kind of moldy, disgusting corn that the farmers couldn't get rid of. So what they did was they actually AFCO, they upped the amount of moldy corn that was allowed in animal feeds. Now, not dog and cat feeds, but animal feeds. But of course, you are what you eat. So if the animal itself is loaded with mycotoxins, then those mycotoxins find their way into the food supply. It's actually aflatoxins. They are the most potent carcinogen that isn't man-made, and it really is the number one problem in pet food today. It's very prevalent. When the Hong Kong study looked at a bunch of American foods, they found that mycotoxins, aflatoxins were in a large percentage of them. It's a really big problem.
Yeah, so this aflatoxin is such a crazy, all these ingredients getting into our dog's food. We have a question here from Abrielle in the chat room. Dana, have you ever seen a dog recover from lymphoma? And if so, what would you give them to help them heal, do you think?
I think for cancer, I'm a big believer in homeopathy. So I would work with a homeopathic vet and look at carcinosin as a remedy for homeopathy. The other thing is medicinal mushrooms, especially turkey tail and reishi. I would get those into your dog. And something that a lot of people don't think about is, you could also look at apocaps from Dr. Damian Dressler as well. But the one thing that I would give any dog with cancer is phytoplankton. And the reason for that is one of the big theories about cancer right now is because it's a result of damage and a breakdown in the mitochondria. The really cool thing about phytoplankton is that it does not need to be digested before it enters the cell, and the molecules are actually small enough that they can enter right into the mitochondria and fuel them directly. So for cancer, for a simple supplement, that would absolutely be my number one go-to.
Huh, phytoplankton. Is there an issue, do you
Mhm.
think, giving dogs supplements of things that they would normally never eat? Like, for example, like we had someone on talking about spirulina and how they give that to their dogs. You know, a dog would never typically eat spirulina, but do you think they can take this stuff and utilize it in some way?
Well, the dog wouldn't also naturally be rolling in glyphosate and eating mycotoxins. I think in today's world, you kind of have to pull out the heavy artillery. Are you asking, is it digestible? Of course it is.
Uh-huh.
Even like any starch is at least 80% digestible by any carnivore, and and like I said, with phytoplankton, it fuels the entire ocean, and it's so small that it doesn't even need to be digested. So of course it's bioavailable. And the other thing is, people think that fish is naturally high in omega-3 fatty acids, and it's not. They get the omega-3 fatty acids from the phytosynergy, and then that again, fatty acid imbalance is such a massive problem in people and dogs today. That's the added benefit of giving the phytoplankton. I don't see a problem with it
Mm-hmm.
because we're living in a very, very artificial world today.
Yeah.
It's changed.
Yeah, I
Game's
mean,
changed.
yeah, everything we're doing and the way we're living is artificial anyway. Aubrielle, I'm going to bring up Dogs Naturally magazine really quickly here so that you can take a look. They have a number of different articles. I was just searching when Dana was talking right now about cancer, and so you might want to look at some of these things. These are written by different, vets and doctors here that you can look at, and so you might want to look at some of these things for your dog. And so yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. And so we have another question here from the chat room that I thought was really interesting from Julia. She said here, hey Justin, is there any advice to detox vaccines? Because this is an issue we have too, because we got our puppies when they were about 1 or 2 years old and they were vaccinated before we got them. So is there any way to detox vaccines and medications as well as chemicals from dogs? How do you do a detox, Dana, for a dog? Is that even possible, do you think?
Yeah, it's. I'll preface this by saying I don't want you to think that you can give a vaccine and say, oh, okay, I'll detox and the damage and the risk won't happen, because that's just not true. But of course, a lot of us have dogs that are already vaccinated, and we want to learn how to deal with that damage, with that fallout. Is a product recommendation okay?
Sure, sure, go for it.
Okay.
Please.
Julianne Lee, she's a homeopath, and she has owned some of the largest emergency veterinary clinics in Canada. She is the homeopath that I use for my own animals. She's actually developed a product called anti-vaccinosis,
Mm.
which she's used in thousands of animals in her practice, and it's a homeopathic combination, and it does a really, really good job in most dogs. And you'll usually see a noticeable difference in about 48 hours with it, because otherwise you're dealing with a homeopathic vet. And the remedy, a lot of people say, oh, just give Thuya. I'm not a big believer in Thuya for all vaccine related damage. Otherwise, you're working with a homeopathic vet. And the thing about vaccine damage is it becomes miasmatic. It just gets so deep in the dog's body. It gets in their DNA, and it just gets passed from generation to generation. It can be really, really tough to deal with that kind of miasm. So, of course, the best approach is just to avoid vaccination altogether if you can.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I just typed in that anti-vaccinosis, and I found and so I found another website. Is it dogsnaturallymarket.ca? Is that your website as well?
Yeah, that's our shop. Or you can buy, it's made by Adored Beast, and you can buy it directly from Adored Beast as well.
Okay, let me just show this so that people can see it. I'll put a link to it on the show notes, extremehealthradio.com/639 if you guys are, at the gym or doing something and you can't get access to it. But so this is dogsnaturallymarket.ca, which is Dana's website as well. So anti-vaccinosis says it's $25 at this time. And how would you administer this?
Just orally. It's a spray. I think you do it a couple of times a day for 2 days, and then you're done. And one bottle will last you well, it'll outlive you and all of your dogs, and it will be enough for multiple dogs.
Oh my gosh,
So
really?
yeah, so it's a pretty minor investment.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, $25 for, a lifetime is a lifetime of multiple dogs, you think?
Oh, no question.
Wow.
Yeah, no
Okay.
question.
Gosh,
You could do a whole kennel with one bottle.
yeah, that's not too shabby. Wow. Yeah, that's okay, I'll put a link to that on the show page too. And let's see if there's any other questions in the chat room. Gosh, got some good stuff here coming in. Wendy wants to know, how do I stop a dribble problem? Vet said it's an injury related. She was dropped as a child as a puppy. I'm assuming a dribble from their going pee, I think, I would guess. Do you have any thoughts about that? Is that possible?
Yeah, if it's from the mouth, then I would say that's neurological. That's
Yeah, right.
tough.
Dribble. I'm trying to figure out if it's like if the dog's urinary tract is an issue or if it's coming from the mouth. Like, so Wendy, if you could explain a little bit more. Julia asks, I don't think they ship to the UK. I've been using milk thistle, which is reducing her lipomas slowly. Okay. I have stopped all meds and vaccines. She is all natural. Okay, so this is Julia's dog who had the question about lymphoma, I think. Wow. Yeah, doc, uh, isn't it just amazing how when we start going to a natural lifestyle with our dogs and ourselves as well, over time things just tend to sort of clear up and go away. Isn't that just incredible how that works? you know?
I spend zero time treating my dogs. I have a 10-year-old dog who just went to the vet for her first time. I had two girls who developed tumors. So Alice developed a mammary tumor, and Audrey had what looked like a mast cell on her side. And it started the size of a wart, but boy, it started growing really, really quick. So I actually drove 19 hours with both of them to find the only vet who would allow us to actually be there during surgery and inject carcinosin into like the tissues surrounding it, because I didn't want a biopsy, of course. So we removed those tumors, and Alice's came back not cancerous, and Audrey's came back really low grade mast cell tumor, and they said it just is not going to come back at all. And I think that turned out to be a success story for me because I'd already done my homework with my dogs. I didn't wait till they got cancer and said, "Oh my God, now what am I going to do?" I'd already done my homework. I'd already done everything I could to boost and protect their immune system. I'd done everything I could to balance their fatty acids so that they weren't living in chronic inflammation. I'd built up their immune system with colostrum, with mushrooms. The thing about cancer is that we all have it. We don't die from cancer. We live with cancer. And so when it did happen to my dogs, they landed on top, I think, just because I'd done my homework.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Can I ask you about a few different food substances and get your thoughts on those?
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm curious about eggs. What do you think about eggs for dogs, and do you think they're good?
I love eggs. It depends on where the eggs come from. If you're going to feed an egg, feed shell and all. It is the perfectly balanced food for your dog. There is eggs are the most complete source of proteins that you for anyone. And the great thing about eggs is if they are pasture raised, they're really high in vitamin D, and vitamin D deficiency is a massive problem for dogs. We can produce our own vitamin D from the sun. Dogs can't. So dogs rely on their food animals for their vitamin D content. The problem is those animals are raised indoors, so they're already vitamin D deficient, and it's a big problem for your dog. So pasture raised eggs are absolutely fantastic.
Mm. Do you think it would be a good idea to wash the shell off before, like, making sure, or just keep some of that bacteria on? Because you know how there's an issue,
Oh
people
yeah.
talk about that. Is that an issue, do you think?
At the barn where I board my horse, her son just loves chickens. He's like 12 years old, and there's chickens all over the property, doing what chickens are supposed to do. They're just out everywhere. They're cleaning up behind the horses or eating the insects and the stuff. And they pop out their little eggs, and he says, do you want them cleaned? I'm like, no, I just brush off the little bits of straw that are on them and just give them right to my dogs.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
I think anything like that is a really, really valuable source of probiotics for the dogs.
Hmm. Yeah, I would think so too. Yeah, because I know that the mass media tries to get you to be fearful and about eggs and stuff like that, especially doing them raw. I'm also curious about like duck eggs. I've seen those and different kinds of eggs. Do you think? I guess a dog, if you think about it, naturally running in the wild would every now and then come across a duck egg or a chicken egg or something like that, right?
Oh yeah, like he's got, again, for my dogs, I take all the weird eggs because he's got like guinea fowl, he's got ducks, he's got geese, and all the people who want to eat the people eggs, they just want the chicken eggs, and I'm like, yeah, just give me the weird ones, it's fine. The dogs will
That's
eat them.
so funny. Yeah. So do you advocate a pretty much raw diet? Do you think for dogs?
Oh yeah, completely raw. And yeah, I think some people might be rolling their eyes and going, "Oh, here goes the raw food thing again."
Uh huh.
There's nothing magical about a raw diet at all. There's no magic ingredient in a raw diet. What is most desirable about a raw diet is what's not in it.
Hmm.
What's not in it. If you're feeding a raw diet, you're not going to deal with mycotoxins. You're not going to deal with heterocyclic amines. You're not going to deal with acrylamides, all of those toxic substances that come from processing. Flame retardants. Most kibbles have flame retardants in them. And the funny thing is, they said, where did those come from? Like, how are flame retardants getting into kibble? And what they did was they tested the individual ingredients, the raw ingredients. There was no flame retardants in them. So somewhere within the extruding and processing process, flame retardants are actually created in kibble. It's madness. Kibbles, of course, because all of the nutrition is baked and extruded out of them, they're fortified with synthetic vitamins and minerals. There's none of that in a raw diet. And of course, there's no starch or carbohydrate in a raw diet. So there's nothing magical about raw. What's desirable about it for people who want really, really healthy dogs is that you're avoiding the synthetics, you're avoiding the toxins, and you're avoiding the starch and the carbohydrates.
Hmm. Now, is it true with conventional dog food that some of that includes like roadkill and some bizarre substances that they're putting in? I mean, I've heard some horror stories about what's actually in this stuff, but I don't know to be, I've never tested it.
Yeah, no, it used to be. No, it's very unlikely these days for there to be rendered dogs and cats in there. But with that said, that there's been some big brands that have recently been recalled for pentobarbital, which is a euthanasia drug. So that somebody put down their horse or their cow or something, like there's a reason it got in there.
Mm.
So there are downer animals in there for sure. It just, honestly, I think that's probably the least of your worries with kibble.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. So, what are your thoughts about like bone broth and stuff like this? I mean, because obviously, if you're going 100% natural, you would think, well, a dog's never going to get a bone broth because that's like a cooked substance. But like you were mentioning before, we live in a very unnatural world the way it is now. And sometimes doing an unnatural substance, it's just like juicing, like juice, you would never get like fresh vegetable juice in the jungle, but that doesn't mean it's not good for you. So with the bone broth, is it possible that that's really, really good? We give it to our dogs quite often.
Yeah, because again, glyphosate wouldn't happen in the wild, but it does for today's dog. And one of the things that when your dog's microbiome is harmed, then the harmful bacteria can take over, and their poo poo just creates like toxins, and it causes inflammation in the gut. And when that happens, the gut lining is kind of like cheesecloth, and when it gets inflamed, it stretches out, and now large molecules of proteins and viruses and things can get through, and that's called leaky gut. The largest value that I find of bone broth is that the glutamine in it can really, really help to heal leaky gut. I think it's a fantastic food to feed dogs, but only if it comes from organic bones, especially if you're feeding beef bones, because the thing is, glyphosate is stored in like bone marrow, and lead is found in bones as well. So just be careful of your sources with everything.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because when someone actually, like an older person, fractures a hip or something like that, and or they break their arm, a lot of times their heavy metals will increase in the body because it's all that's stored in the bones, right? Huh. One more thing to think about. So we given our dog yesterday. We gave our dog some bones from, gosh, I think it was cow bones, and they ate the marrow out of them, and they just loved it. But now you got me thinking. I got to make sure these are organic cows, right? Or at least grass-fed cows.
No question. No question. Yeah.
Yeah, my goodness. There's always something to think about, isn't there?
It's always something.
Ay, ay, ay. Now, what are your thoughts about? I wanted to ask you about fleas and ticks. I know this is a real issue, and this was one of the issues with our dog. This is how we found you, is we were given a medication, and I forget the name of the medication now, but you wrote a whole article about the medication. And when I read your article about it, it just further solidified in my mind that we should avoid giving our dog. And our dog was just, her name's Charlie, and she was losing weight, losing fur. She looked sickly. All of her fur was coming off. It was horrible. But I think there's something to allowing a dog to go through something to boost their own immune system. And so I'm wondering, flea and tick issues, what are your thoughts about this? Because I know right now it's not really the time in Northern America because it's colder. But man, the end of summertime is really a tough time for dogs, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think in some cases, if your dog has fleas or ticks, you probably don't have a flea and tick problem. You might have an immune system problem. Uh, and we know that parasites are really, really good at preying on the sick and the weak. But there's certainly some cases where a healthy dog can just be in an environment where there's just fleas everywhere, and they just it can happen. Uh, fleas are fleas are tough, man. Like I'll go out there and I'll say it. I've never had to deal with them, knock on wood. Fleas are tough. If I had a dog that was infested with fleas and I just couldn't get at it naturally, what I would do is get a really, really get a dish soap, one that forms a. You could probably do this with a natural dish soap and use as little water as possible. And wash your dog with a dish soap, because what happens is it forms really, really hard bubbles, and the fleas kind of just drown in those bubbles. They can't run up to the top of the dog's head and survive that. But that usually does a pretty good job of getting the fleas off your dog. But then you got the problem of your house. You've got all
Mm-hmm.
those fleas in your house, on your couch, on your dog beds. I mean, if you've got the ability to, treat those and go on vacation for a month, that's great. Most people don't. It's so hard, fleas. For me, ticks are much more straightforward than fleas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lyme disease doesn't just happen. Lyme disease is a co-infection. It does not happen unless there's some other disease present. And not only that, dogs don't really get Lyme disease. University of Pennsylvania, they actually did a research study, and they literally exposed dogs directly to Lyme disease, and 95% of them didn't get any symptoms whatsoever. And the dogs that did get symptoms were A, puppies, and B, they only had transient symptoms for a few days. So I don't know why people are so paranoid about ticks, because again, it just comes down to keeping your dog's immune system as healthy as you can manage to make it, and then chances are your dog's not going to get Lyme disease, because it's a lot harder for a dog to get Lyme disease than people imagine it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we used a product called Cedarside and had some pretty good success with that. Have you tried that with fleas on your dogs or anybody else's dogs? Cedarside?
It's not natural.
Oh, really? Is it damaging?
They've changed their formulation. So what happened was, I can't remember the chemical, not the chemical, but there was a surfactant in it, and it tripled in price. And
Oh.
that was about a year and a half ago. And so when it tripled in price, they changed their formulation. And now if you check, we actually carried it in the store, and we sold so much of that stuff. But we just had to stop carrying it when they made the formulation change. So take a
Wow.
look at the bottle, please. It's funny because it says it's the original formula, and it's not. They didn't even tell us about the formulation change. So here we got all this stuff in, and we're like, what the heck is this? So we sent it all back. And so if anybody out there has a really high quality flea and tick spray that's absolutely natural, let me know because we'd love to have it.
Yeah. So what would someone look for? Is Cedar Side like a one sort of brand that's distributed in multiple places, or is it possible that there still is Cedar Side that's the original formulation?
No, because Cedar Side is the brand name. There's also Wonder Side. I don't know if they've changed their formulation as well. Gosh, I wish I could remember that ingredient. But
Mm.
yeah, it was a real problem. It tripled in price, and it just became cost prohibitive for them to make it. So, as a company, when you have all these people buying your product, you can't triple the price. So they just did a formulation change. There's a lot of small manufacturers making really really nice essential oil sprays, but you have to be careful with them as well. You have to make sure that the essential oils are really really high quality because they're pharmaceuticals just like anything else. They're really really potent. Yeah, it's a tough one. We haven't been able to find a manufacturer yet. We're probably going to end up just making our own.
Wow. Wow, that would be cool because I could trust what you're doing. you know. Oh man. So in terms
Well,
of
we actually looked at Cedar Side's originally formula and tried to do something with that, and it was just there was no way. It was just too expensive to produce it. Nobody would buy it.
wow, gosh, it's so disheartening to know that.
It
Hmm.
is.
Well, in terms of supplements for dogs, we've kind of talked a little bit about some of them. What are your top, and you can include some of these too. What are your like top 5 things that dogs should be getting, and they could be some of the ones that we talked about. But what should all dogs be getting on a semi-consistent basis? Do you think?
Yeah, I think number one is phytoplankton because again, especially for older dogs or dogs with digestive issues, it's just such a wonderful thing to have for the reasons that I mentioned before.
Uh-huh.
I think another one is probably hemp oil because again it's super rich in minerals and most dogs have a lot of glyphosate and glyphosate chelates minerals. So hemp oil is an important one to have, plus it helps to balance the essential fatty acids. And I hate to say this, it makes me cringe to say this, but I think I need to. I think dogs need fish. Please not from the Pacific Ocean because that's a really really bad idea, and choose only fish that are at the bottom of the food chain. So fish like mackerel, not king mackerel, the small mackerel, or oh my gosh, the little sardines,
Oh, right.
like the little tiny fish. The reason why we should feed fish is this: in an ideal world, your dog would be eating a whole prey diet. He'd be eating eyeballs, he'd be eating brains, he'd be eating the skin, the fur, and the feathers. Most dogs are manganese deficient because most of the manganese is in the hair coat or in the fins, so and the bones as well. That's a problem. We're all spending all this money on fish oil because we're trying to get DHA into our dogs when the brain and the eyes are a really rich and natural source of DHA that isn't processed. And then the other value of whole fish is for those people making a raw diet at home, chances are you do not have enough vitamin D in it. So if you add 1 ounce of fresh fish for every pound of raw food that you feed, then you will get enough vitamin D in your dog's diet. The one supplement that I really don't recommend is fish oil or krill oil or squid oil or any of those for a couple of reasons. The first is it rapes the ocean, and you should just stop doing that. And the
Mhm.
second reason is it's funny because all these raw feeders is like, oh no, I would never feed my dog anything processed or cooked. And what do you think happens to fish oil? It is a processed product and it's heated. And the biggest problem with fish oil is the double carbon bonds in the fats break down so easily when they're exposed to oxygen. Even when it's being manufactured, it's going to oxidize. If it's in capsules, the oxygen gets through the little capsules and it oxidizes. If it's in a plastic bottle, it oxidizes. Every time you open the bottle and pour it on your dog's food, it oxidizes. And these oxidized, rancid fats will cause chronic inflammation in your dogs. And every chronic disease today is caused by chronic inflammation. So it's a really, really good idea to make sure that your dog is getting lots of omega-3 fats, but it's a terrible idea, I think, if they're coming from fish oil.
Mm-hmm. Interesting you say that, because we just re-released, for those that are like listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher and things, we have 639 shows. And so we've done a lot of shows with a lot of different people. And we are doing now best of shows. So if you're subscribed on iTunes or Stitcher, you can get some of our best of content 7 days a week. And then about 2 or 3 days a week, you can get our new shows. And so we recently released a show a couple of days ago with Brian Peskin. He's a professor. And he was saying the exact same things you were saying, Dana, about fish oil. And we were talking in that conversation about humans. But he was saying that, you're getting a pharmacologically overdosed amount of these oils that you would never get in nature. And he was just going on and on about the dangers of fish oils, and what to take instead as a human. But he was saying the same exact thing. It's crazy. And a lot of people are giving fish oil to their dogs, right? And taking it themselves.
Oh, yeah. I think that's the number one supplement that all dog owners would give their dogs is fish oil. Terrible for your dog, terrible for the ocean.
Yeah, my goodness. So I like those supplements that you were talking about. I guess the colostrum and the bone broth, those would be considered more food. But I like those supplements that you're talking about. Are those available on your website? Can people get those there?
Adored Beast sells a really nice phytoplankton. What's nice about it is it's actually it's manufactured in Spain, and they take water from the Atlantic Ocean. They grow it on land in natural sunlight, and of course they filter the water and take all the heavy metals and the crap out of it, and then they return that nice, clean, filtered water to the ocean. So it's very sustainable, clean product. So I think that's fantastic. I can't remember the second supplement that I mentioned. Oh, whole fish. No, we don't sell whole fish. Yeah. But you can get frozen fish anywhere. But just don't buy it from the Pacific Ocean. With Fukushima, like the radiation is on the West Coast now, and it's a big problem. I wouldn't touch fish from the Pacific right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. One final question about heartworm, because that's an issue with a lot of dogs, and then I want to find out more about what you have going on with the magazine. But with heartworm and animals, this is an issue for a lot of people because they're been given all kinds of drugs and medications and chemicals from their vet about to kill heartworm. What are some solutions or some ideas that people could do to prevent heartworm, as well as if they know they're dealing with it, perhaps work with it to mitigate that?
Yeah, the reason that we know heartworm is a problem for dogs is because we can go to the Heartworm Society website and find that out, and we'll also find that it's run and sponsored by the people who make the heartworm drugs.
Oh, really?
Coincidence? Yes.
Wow.
Oh, that applies to everything. Same with dog flu. The dog flu vaccine was manufactured before there was really any dog flu, and the vet who is most outspoken from Florida State, Cynthia. Oh my gosh, not Cynthia. She's the one who's behind all of the. Out of all the news reports of the dog flu outbreaks, she actually owns the virus. So she's patented the virus. So every vaccine that gets manufactured is manufactured with her patent. And I would imagine that she probably doesn't give that patent out for free. I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. Wow. So,
but when it comes.
Whoops, I think we lost her. Oh, no. I think we lost Dana there. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe her internet will come back on. I know she's in a hotel room. She said, "Oh, here we go. Let's see. The internet is trying to come back on here." So I think she's still frozen. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Maybe there's a little glitch.
Are we back?
Yeah, we're back. So sorry about that.
There we go. No, that's
Yeah.
okay. So for heartworm, I don't think it's an issue. I've never given my dogs heartworm meds in the last 20-25 years. Of course, I don't live in Florida or Texas, but a whole lot of people do live in Florida and Texas and do not give their dogs heartworm meds. So again, it all comes down to a healthy. People forget that the immune system is there for a reason. And oh my gosh, we have a great video on the website someplace of the dog's white blood cells actually attacking and killing a worm, a parasite. And people think that the immune system is only for viruses, but it's not. It's for parasites as well. So a fully functional immune system can certainly disable and kill a parasite. There's a lab in Canada. You would have to send your blood work up to Canada, but there's a lab in Canada called Health Gene, and they have a new test for heartworm where they don't need to be adult heartworms for the test to work. So depending on where you live, if you run this test regularly, then you're going to catch your dog's heartworm before they're adults. And if you do that, then you can just treat it with natural methods or with ivermectin. With that said, I'm going to call out another company. There's a company called Amber Technology. They make a great heartworm product called HWF. And I don't give my dogs any heartworm products, but we have lots and lots and lots and lots of people who do, and they have fantastic success with that product, not just preventing heartworm, but actually treating it. So there's lots and lots of options for you for heartworm. You don't have to use the meds, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just looking, kind of poking around for people because I know people listening are going to want to get access to that. So it's called HWF, formerly Heartworm Free. And is it available on your store, or is that the heartwormfree.com site?
No, it should be at the Amber Technology website. We have it in our store as well. A lot of independent pet stores will stock that product as well. It's a fantastic herbal product. It works so well. I don't care if you buy it from our store, but if you go to our store, you'll see lots and lots of reviews on it, and just read through the reviews and talk to the company. They're really, really good with customer support.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at it here, Heartworm Free. Formerly HWF. So it's about $40, $40. And okay, so this is something that you could do. Okay, look at this. Okay, you can have the whole directions for use.
Yeah, and again, they have to be careful with their wording because of the FDA, but you can use it to treat existing heartworm as well. And of course, this is a slow kill method. It's not as dangerous or as toxic as it would be if you went to the vet and tried to treat heartworm that way. Because of course, when you treat heartworm with the heavy medications, then your dog has to be on crate rest because the adult heartworms can get into his heart and literally kill him. You don't have to worry about that if you deal with a homeopathic vet or a good herbologist like the people who manufacture this product, because you're going to get a much slower die-off, and it's just a lot safer for your dog. Yeah, a lot of vets say, oh, the preventatives are so cheap, and that's a good idea because the cure for heartworm is so expensive and so hard on your dog, and that's because they just don't realize there's a much safer natural alternative to treating heartworm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they go straight for the drugs, right? Straight for the chemicals and straight for the heavy hitters. It's like crazy what they do, right?
Yeah, the stuff that gets patented.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money, obviously, being able to be made from all this stuff, and it's just the way the world works, and like you were just saying, vets, it's they just don't know. It's nothing against them; they just don't know this other stuff exists.
Well, it is actually against them because if you go to a vet and they lie to you and they cheat to you, then that's one thing. If they know that this is happening and they don't care and it's not their bag, then that's okay. It just makes them a cheat. But if your vet doesn't know that vaccines will protect your dog for life, then he's a charlatan, and I think that's worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean the same holds true for doctors, and I think one of the things that we're trying to do with our work and your work as well is to just educate people that there are choices out there that you're not going to see on a natural on any kind of commercial or on any regular radio station. You're not going to hear this kind of information, and so when you avail yourself of like a product like you were just talking about, the next time you go to the vet and he tries to give you some kind of chemical, now you have this idea like, oh, I heard this interview somewhere with this lady who was talking about a homeopathic, and now you can search it. But if you're never exposed to that information, you'll just never know, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So Dana, tell me a little bit about what's going on with new projects you have going on with the magazine, cool new things that you're doing. I know that you're just, it's a full-time thing and it's just taking over the world. So tell me more about what you have going on there.
Yeah, our market has turned out really. I think there's a lot of frustration because people couldn't find. They're like, okay, I get this holistic thing. I'm all in, and they would get frustrated because they couldn't find a holistic vet who would work with them. So we actually have we have some membership things where you can join in, and we do doctors rounds where you can hang out with our vets and ask your questions and get them answered. And I think that's really, really valuable for people. So we've added that. We have the Dogs National University, so we actually have some certification courses in pet food nutrition, raw food nutrition, and homeopathy and herbalism. I think that's fantastic. And we've actually started manufacturing our own products as well, just because there's some holes in the market that we really feel we'd like to fill. So that's been interesting, to say the least, to be on the other side of manufacturing. Right. It's an absolute crazy world, but we're really excited to tackle on that new challenge for sure.
Yeah, and so the magazine itself is something that people can subscribe to, and they get a monthly subscription, a physical magazine. Is that how it works?
We actually forget about the magazine. It's not really central to what we do anymore, but absolutely. We have print, we have digital magazines for sure, and that's where most people cut their teeth. And the magazine is written, probably 90% of the articles in there are all by holistic vets. There's no fluff in there. There's nothing like, here's how to bake brownies for your dogs or knit them sweaters or anything like that. It's all hard-hitting, super hardcore, health and nutrition advice. So we're quite proud of the magazine, and I think it's a great thing to have for any dog owner.
That's cool. That's cool. So tell me a little bit about the membership idea, because, as someone who has 2 dogs, and, I would like to be like you and have 4 or 5 dogs on a big piece of land. And so whenever you have these animals, you're going to have to learn how to take care of them. And so the membership idea is, just explain that a little bit. Like, what do people get for that? I'm interested in that.
We love it. It's called DNM Elite. And the first thing that you get is access to a private Facebook page, and that's where everyone hangs out. And it doesn't matter if it's the middle of the night, if you've got a question, if you've got an emergency with your dog, there's people there who've been down that road, breeders and vets and herbalists who can help you out. And then we also do, once a month, we do a workshop. So actually we have one tomorrow with Dr. Sue Armstrong from the UK. And that's a 4 or 5 hour, really in-depth instruction on, we'll talk about topics like cancer, Cushing's disease, really diabetes, some nutrition topics, and really dive deep into them. But then we also have shorter 45-minute, we call them doctor's rounds, where we'll just hop on with a vet or an expert and talk a little bit about a product, but we leave a lot of time open for people to ask their questions and get them answered. There's also member-only courses and guides. So there's a step-by-step guide for treating pyometra or parvovirus or fleas and ticks or those types of things, and free shipping in the store. But yeah, by far people love the private Facebook page. It's a great community and a really friendly place to be, which is a little bit rare on Facebook these days.
I know. I was just going to say that. That's so cool. Yeah, because a lot of times on online communities that are free, it's hard. You get a lot of people, saying bad comments and things. But yeah, what a cool place to have a supportive community like that, right? So
yeah, we have a full-time community manager, and I'm in there a lot. We just make sure it stays friendly. Like we don't give anybody second chances when it comes to that. It's just a fantastic, supportive place to be.
That's awesome. Dogs Naturally magazine. So if someone is new to your work, they should just check out your website first, kind of look at the articles, and then they can go from there.
Oh yeah, definitely. We have lots and lots of free articles. The website gets about 2 million visitors a month, and super busy. Lots and lots going on there. There's something for everybody, I think.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. That's so cool. Well, Dana, thank you so much for being on and for sharing a lot of your wisdom and insights into taking care of animals. I appreciate it so much, and I just really appreciate you spending time with us today.
No, thanks so much for having me. It's been fun.
Awesome, Dana. All right, I will be in contact very soon. I'll send you the link as soon as this is available, and you can feel free to share it with whoever you like. And I appreciate your time and your work.
Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, Dana.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, there you go. Dana Scott from Dogs Naturally magazine. What did you guys think? I'm always curious about your thoughts about a guest after the show. It's kind of our chance to hang out and share what's working with our dogs and our health and things like that. So I'm curious. A lot of you guys are talking in the chat room, which is really cool. Let me see what some of you guys are saying. Abrielle says, let's see, I use a spray. The brand is Better You. Julia says, I get it on Amazon. She takes it well. It's interesting what she was saying, I think, Dana, about veterinarians. And, I try to take a little bit of the sting out of my disregard for doctors and veterinarians. I guess I do have a bit of a disdain for them because I feel like if you're going to be offering solutions to people, if you're a medical doctor or if you're a traditional veterinarian, I feel like you should be kept up to date with all the information. Like I personally, I would never feel like I was doing the right thing if I purposefully was just too lazy or didn't have enough time to do research. Like for me, if someone were to come to me, I want to give them every conceivable option. Like when we're talking with Dana earlier about fleas and ticks, I was thinking like there are energetic frequency machines that you could get, like a biophoton analyzer, where you actually take a flea or tick and you create the exact opposite resonant frequency by putting them in two different vials and then putting that into some water, which is basically like a homeopathic carrier where it can carry the charge and the frequency of the tick, and it creates the antidote in the water, and then you can give your dogs that water. They drink the water. And so we could do these things. This technology was used to be called radionics back in the day, but we can use this kind of technology for our health and for our dog's health. And there's machines out there where you can do this. They're called biophoton analyzers, or radionics would be something that you want to look up. But, I was just bringing this up as an example of a healing modality that would be beneficial to know. And if I were a veterinarian and I didn't look into chaga mushroom for cancer, or I didn't look into this fish oil debate that people are having, or if I didn't look into all this kind of stuff, I would feel just, I don't know, I just couldn't do a job like that where I was just pushing drugs and medication. And so I was trying to take the high road and saying that, like these doctors and veterinarians, it's nothing against them. But, like she said, there is something against them because they're knowingly deceiving you, and they're charlatans if they don't know any better. I guess that's why I'm not a doctor, is because I would want to know every option of healing, helping someone to heal a particular disease. If I called myself a doctor, right, I'd want to have a completely open mind. So, caring for your animals, if you're a natural person like we are, like we love to take care of our dogs and ourselves naturally. And I think that part of the main thing, I think, is really just building your immune system and avoiding getting any disease, whether it's you or your animal, to begin with. And so one of the things I wanted to share with you guys before is this idea. You can see I'm wearing these glasses right now that blocks blue light. And one of the things that I'm really glad that we're doing these days is using a lot of red light in our home in the evenings when we have to turn on light. And so what happens is that basically blue light causes diseases. And if you look into the work of Dr. Jack Cruz or Dr. Doug Wallace in Philadelphia Children's Hospital there, he talks about this. The mitochondria are affected by blue light. And so when you are exposing your dogs to blue light indoors, it's going to be really damaging for their health. And so put your dog outside as much as possible so they're getting full spectrum sun. I think this is one of the best things that we could do for our health. And so put your dogs outside, make sure they get full spectrum sun, but when they're inside, try to get these orange and red lights inside your home, because it's going to protect their DHA, it's going to protect their mitochondria so that they don't come down with a mitochondrial disease, which is what cancer is. It's a mitochondrial disease. So I think one of the biggest things that we can do is supplementing, making sure we're loving our dogs, making sure we're petting them, they're getting enough exercise, they're getting enough love, they're getting the right light environment in their home, and they're spending time outdoors. But then they're also getting this really beneficial supplements in terms of food, a wide variety of different items in their diet. And I think that's huge for animals. I think that they would a dog naturally would be not in one spot. They wouldn't live in one place. So we try to mimic all of that with ourselves and with our pups too. So I hope you guys enjoyed that show with Dana Scott. And make sure to check out the Barf World raw dog food if you guys are interested. And if you guys want to check out the Surthrival products, make sure to check those out as well. And I wanted to tell you guys about the Magnetico mattress pad. This is really cool. This is something that Kate and I use, and we're going to be doing or putting the show with Dr. Dean Bonley on our iTunes feed in just a second. But let me bring this up to you guys here. If you guys are looking for a really cool product to bring into your home, the Magnetico is really awesome. As you guys know, it's all about light, water, and magnetism when it comes to our health. And we are magnetic beings. We are electric beings long before we're physical. If you're not aware of that, start looking into physics, electrons, photons, and how they basically impact our health. Because when you really get down to it, we are made up of electrons. And so when you get down to how electrons act within our body, they're influenced by the magnetism that we're exposed to. And unfortunately, the magnetism of the earth has been decreasing over time. So this is why we like to lay and to bathe our bodies in a magnetic field when we sleep. With the coming 5G, this would be something that would be incredibly beneficial for you to sleep in this magnetic field to offset a lot of this 5G stuff that's coming, our way. And so this is why we love sleeping for 8 hours on this. And you can see a picture here of Kate when she was pregnant. Our kids have never not slept on a magnetic mattress pad, actually, which is really cool. Kate slept on it all during her pregnancy, and now the kids are sleeping on that. And it's just really cool. So we're a big fan of the Magnetico mattress pad. So check that out. I think they're giving you guys a 10% off discount. Yeah, EHR10 will give you a 10% discount code if you guys are interested in getting that. And then something else that I wanted to tell you guys about too is these biomats. Now, I don't know if you've been familiar with these things or if you have used one, but man, these things are incredible. So they use far infrared light. And so a far infrared light, it comes in the form of heat. It feels like it's heat, but it's actually using light frequencies to penetrate into your body. And what's cool about these things is that the light, the mats themselves are infused with like 50 pounds of amethyst and tourmaline crystals. And the light goes through, this far infrared light goes through those crystals, and you lay on this mat. And it's really great because you can actually apply like the far infrared technology locally. So a lot of times people ask us like, what product is better, the sauna or the biomat? And it really depends. It kind of depends how you're going to use it. Depends what your goals are. Depends on a lot of different things. But, like Adam Bergstrom says, yes, no, maybe. I don't think of things in terms of and. I just think in terms of or. Like, why not get both? So we love the biomat, and we got turned on to them from Dr. Mark Circus. Doing a stretch here. Dr. Mark Circus was on our show, and he shared a lot of good information about what this biomat does. Increases heat shock protein, oxygenates the blood, increases circulation, helps the body to heal more effectively. It decreases pain, lowers inflammation, allows toxins to be removed and flushed from the lungs and the lymphatic system, helps to rejuvenate the DNA, it helps to burn calories, increase metabolism. There's so much going on when you're laying on one of these mats, and I'm really, really a big fan. You can see the tourmaline here, crystals, and you can see all the really cool things. Cleanse, detox, and recharge. big fan. Here's a picture of me holding ours. We only have the little small mat here. We want to get the big one. The big one is actually really cool because it's your whole body. So you can actually put it down on like a massage table if you're a practitioner of massage, or if you take long drives, you can put it on your seat of your car and sit on it during the drive of your car, when you're driving, and you can watch TV on it. You can do meditation on it. You can put it on your desk while you're working. You can sit on it. So it's really versatile, and which is what I love about it too. And just a big fan of these things. And bringing some of these healing tools into your home, I think, is really incredible. Super, super helpful, and I think it's really kind of necessary in today's world to start bringing some of these tools into your home. So that you can turn your home into a healing environment. That's really what it's about, is making your home a place of healing. And that's why we offer these products here on Extreme Health Radio. So if you're unfamiliar with the Biomat, Surthrival's colostrum and mushroom products, the Barf World raw dog food, or the Magnetico, make sure to check our store. There's links down below too in the YouTube video if you guys want to check more about those. And let me jump back in the chat room, see what you guys are chatting about. Julia is giving her dog ginger. That's pretty cool. It's helpful. It's anti-inflammatory. My dog loves it sprinkled on food. That's a cool idea, putting ginger in your dog's diet. Supper Soul Gear says, dealing with heart disease, the deficiency can lead to enlarged heart size, dilated cardiomyopathy. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Kind of just going through the comments and reading what you guys are talking about. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up here unless you have any questions for me. If you guys enjoyed that show, please share it with your friends. If you have a Facebook group or know people that are interested in dogs and making sure they, you guys treat and take care of your dogs naturally, make sure to share the show with your friends. I appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed on iTunes yet, I highly recommend doing that. Leave us a review if you could. We would really appreciate that. And rate us and subscribe there on iTunes. Every day we're releasing a new podcast on iTunes, so it's 7 days a week. Now, only 3 of those are going to be brand new shows. The other are going to be archived best of episodes. So the one that we released last night was with Dr. Bruce Lipton. A lot of you guys have been asking us to get Dr. Lipton on the show, and he was on the show a couple years ago, I think in 2014, I think it was, and he was nice enough to be on, and we had a great conversation talking about reprogramming your subconscious mind and your subconscious and how that plays a role in your health. It was really a good conversation. I remember doing that. And so that's available on iTunes. So if you subscribe there, make sure to leave us a review. We'd appreciate that a lot. And we're going to be releasing about 2 to 3 new episodes per week, I think, on iTunes, which is what we do anyway. But then on the other days, we're going to release older content. So if you guys want new content every single day, join on iTunes, join on Stitcher. If you like Stitcher better, use Stitcher. And we appreciate your ongoing support. And I hope you guys are having a great Christmas season. I hope everything is going awesome for you and life is going well. Julia says here, really grateful to people like Dana that share much needed information. Her website has been so helpful. Thanks for having her on, and we can look after all of our family. Yeah, I know it's cool. I really like people that are doing the kind of work that she's doing, because there's a lot of pushback, A lot of people are just doing the conventional things, and there's people in our life that have said they're big fans of Western medicine, and so we just kind of look at the results they get from that, and you can see the results all around you. Is what people get from Western medicine is tragic and horrific, and so that's why having people like Dana out there is really an awesome thing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that show. We love you very, very much. If you guys want to grab the show notes, I put together links of all the different products she talked about at extremehealthradio.com/639. And make sure to join us this Friday. We're going to be doing a live show with our biological dentist, Dr. Stuart Nunley, and we'll be talking with him about root canals, about cavitations, about cavities, about how all of this stuff impacts our health in a tremendous way, like more than you ever would have thought ever. Oral pathology is the number one place to look on a physical level, aside from biophotons in the sun and light and frequency and water and magnetism, one level down below that is going to be your oral pathology. So it's really critical to keep good oral health. And so we're going to have Dr. Stuart Nunley on. He is our biological dentist in Texas that I highly recommend you go see if you're looking for a dentist. And we love you guys very much. And we'll catch you guys on Friday at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. Love you, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse